is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing.
Thank you. Good night. Let me first start off by saying good night to our political leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa. My colleagues here tonight from Parliament, we just heard from Dr. Rudal Munilal. Give him a round of applause again. We also heard from the Honorable Senator Anna Roberts. Some of the words he pronounced here tonight, I don't even think anyone here could really pronounce it. I don't even think he understood what he said, but I'll take it as a given. And we have and I think when Dr. Munilal was talking, the powerful speaker that's coming up after me, besides our honorable leader, is Deputy Leader Julian John. So give it up to them. I would also like to say to my family from Pointe-a-Pierre who's here, give them a round of applause. Everyone listening on the social media. I want to take it down a notch in a somber mood after Dr. Munilal and Anna Roberts. And maybe Julian John will raise the temperature after me. Tonight, I join this virtual platform. Trinidad and Tobago comes to the end of yet another year of calamity, catastrophe, crisis, and destruction, courtesy who? This Rowley-led government, who has no care or compassion for our citizens. Our nation has been derailed to the point where citizens across our nation are living in fear in their own homes, because if they aren't falling victim to crime, they are falling victims to flood, as Dr. Munilal said, and victims of growing poverty. No one in our country is living in peace under this wicked regime. As we enter December, we all look at the story of the Grinch on the television, but right here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have the real-life Grinch known as Rowley-led PNM. The Rowley-led PNM has shut down our refinery. The Rowley-led PNM has taken away your safety and security. This Rowley-led PNM has taken away your fuel subsidy. The Rowley-led PNM has taken away your access to roads and good infrastructure. The Rowley-led PNM has taken away thousands of jobs from you, the citizens. The Rowley-led PNM is rapidly taking away hope, stability, and the prospects of a brighter future for this nation. And he's also taken away our democracy in this country, ladies and gentlemen. The question is, how much more we are going to allow him to take from us. On February 25th, 2022, I want to remind this country, we saw the darkest day in our nation on February 25th, 2022. A day when 4 of our sons, 4 of our brothers, 4 of our fathers were abandoned in a pipeline. On February 25th, 2022, we saw wives and children gather for days in anguish in a car park. We saw a nation rally in prayer and hope. But where was the Prime Minister and the Minister of Energy? Tonight, we tell the country every inch of hurt, every horror, and every heartbreak that is revealed at that Pariah Commission of Inquiry must be bolted to the chest of Rowley and Young, because they were the leaders in this nation who could have stood with the country to save these divers. Rowley and Young had the power to ensure that these wives and children were in a comfortable room while the search was going on. Did they? No, they abandoned them in rain in a car park. Tonight, I want the country to understand Pariah Fuel Trading is a company that falls directly under the purview of this government. This government created Pariah and its management. Don't forget that. They shut down Petroleum and they created Pariah and they brought in their own management. But even more importantly, Pariah is chaired by the friend of the Prime Minister, Newman George. They had full power to use every single arm of the state to help rescue our divers. And 3 of those divers, 2 perished, came from my constituency of Claxton Bay and Gopal Lands. And Christopher Boudram, the lone survivor, also lives in Claxton Bay. They had the full power, as I said, for every single state of the arm of the state to help rescue these divers. We in the opposition knew that the Commission of Inquiry has its work to do, which they are doing exceptionally well, as we commend all the commissioners, but the evidence being revealed is information that we in the opposition, information that OWTU, and information that citizens put forward during this crisis. We revealed that on the weekend of February 25th, there were reports that that Paria had prevented divers from going to help rescue the families. Trinidad and Tobago, I want you to understand here tonight that this level of callousness, this level of recklessness goes beyond Paria. It extends to the government of Trinidad and Tobago because they had the power to handle this catastrophe better. I want to tell this Prime Minister, you had a duty to create a national emergency task force to support Paria to save these divers. And you have heard from Arnold Roberts and even Dr. Munilal that if we were in charge, our Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, would have been side by side to ensure that those divers came out safely. The Paria catastrophe will always be a stain on this heartless government, because we in the opposition, together with other members of our society, were highlighting this crisis that was happening. And I want to just turn to a letter. Now, Arnold Roberts and myself, we sit on the Joint Select Committee of Energy in the Parliament. And we wrote on the 7th of March to the chairman of that committee, Imbert, and we asked that chairman, Arnold, you remember that, and the head of that letter that we wrote, we wanted an urgent meeting to consider and discuss the catastrophic events at Paria Fuel Trading Company on the 25th of February, which cost the lives of 4 divers. We wrote the chairman of the Joint Select of Energy, Imbert, Arnold and myself, to start an investigation on behalf of those divers. And some of the areas we had asked Imbert to look at: the events that transpired on the 25th of February, the rescue efforts made by Paria Fuel Trading Company, the communication by Paria to the families of the victims throughout the ordeal, the assistance rendered by Paria to the families of the divers, the selection process of the investigative team, and the terms of reference of the investigative team. So when out there say that the UNC does not work, your parliamentary colleagues do not do the work, we always do the work, my brothers and sisters. I want to tell the Prime Minister, you had a duty. You had a duty to these divers. Every cry and horror you are hearing in the Commission of Inquiry today, your opposition and others were pleading with this government to get involved, to even provide shelter for their wives and children. But they did nothing. All this government had to do was care. All this government had to do was care about those divers. They had no heart, as Dr. Munilal says. Paria management lacked decency and humanity when, without notice, they held a press conference on the Sunday night to announce that the job had gone from rescue to saving those divers to recovery. They wrote off the divers. Every month we are seeing someone in the PNM constituency get a handout, get a grant. You know what is astonishing? Is the fact that since this crisis, these families have been abandoned. This government didn't need a commission of inquiry to know that they should reach out and help these families. There were 4 breadwinners, and they were lost. Their lives were lost. Instead, they have been treating these families as if they were the ones who committed a crime against our nation. Imagine Christopher Boudram, a young man who should be called a national hero for the courage he has shown, is on the front page of yesterday's paper saying that Paria didn't even drop a hamper for them. They abandoned these families. That is shameful. This is a heartless government. What is even more damning is that Paria could pay thousands, millions to high-end lawyers to badger and bully Boudram from speaking the truth, but they cannot offer any help. These men were not on any random job. They were working for the National Fuel Trading Company. Paria which is a state company. They're providing service to this country. Why does Paria have no remorse? How in heaven's name can 4 men die? Yet Paria official says their role was excellent. We heard that. Excellent. They call themselves, they did an excellent job. I want to ask Mr. Wee. I really want to ask Mr. Wee to explain to us here what he meant that they did an excellent job and 4 divers lost their lives. Is that the word excellence? Do you remember when this government first appointed an investigative team on March 3rd? Your leader, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, raised concerns about the independence of that committee. People like the Energy Chamber were up in arms for her calls. But when you see the horror being revealed at that commission of inquiry today, say, thank God Kamla stood up for them. Because this information would have been swept under the carpet by this government. Thank God for Kamla, for standing and having the strength to stand up for these families. As the Paria Commission of Inquiry reveals the horror of the Paria catastrophe, I tell this government to call another commission of inquiry. And if you don't, when we return to power, led by the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, we will call on a commission of inquiry why this government destroyed Petrotrin. Appoint a commission of inquiry to tell this country why you have left $1 billion asset to turn into scrap metal. Appoint a commission of inquiry to tell the country why you fired 10,000 workers and destroyed fence-line communities. In 2 days' time, my brothers and sisters, 2 days' time, on November 30th, 2022, that is on Wednesday, will mark 4 years since this wicked government shut down Petrotrin without a single valid reason. November 30th on Wednesday marks 4 years since this government destroyed our fuel security for our nation. They destabilized the heart of our energy sector, and they destroyed the forex earning capacity of this nation. 4 years ago, this government promised a new Petrotrin. Is Paria this new Petrotrin? A company that abandoned its workers and treats families with disdain. Had Petrotrin been existent, the old Petrotrin, there would have been proper safety regulations in place, and proper expertise and skilled personnel to save these divers. When they fired all, they sent home the experienced safety personnel who could have prevented this crisis. Yet another year has passed, and the government has continued to mislead the population on the refinery. Year after year, they tell us the refinery is reopening, but never follow through. Now, I want to read something here, and I hope Peter will allow me. It's from the Hansard in Parliament. And it's very interesting that when you read it, it was a document, it was on, I think it was in September 19th. Imbert comes to Parliament. Imbert's to read a statement about Petrotrin. And basically what he's saying, that on September 19th, they did an evaluation of the companies that bid for Petrotrin. They had 5 companies, and at the end of it, he made a statement in Parliament that OWTU, Patriotic Technologies, was the preferred bidder for the refinery. That was on September 19th. You know what happened? I think was in November 2019, local government elections were held. You know what happened after local government election? OWTU, up to today, never got their hands on that refinery. So this government continues to fool OWTU and dangle that Petrotrin refinery in front of their face. And I'm calling on the OWTU here tonight to stop taking basket from this government. Stop taking basket. I want to tell them that the PNM, this PNM-led government, has made our energy sector the most unattractive it has ever been. They had 2 failed bid rounds in that Petrotrin, and they continue to fail. While your homes are flooded, my brothers and sisters, the PNM is building a new Balazi house. And I'm sure my leader will talk more on that. While you can't afford rent and cannot find jobs, This government has wasted millions on Nelson Gate. While the government continues to abandon its citizens, continues to neglect its responsibility, we in the UNC, led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar, continues to stand for the people of this nation. You have a leader of the opposition who continues to be courageous in defending the rights of our citizens. In the last year, we saw she was right. Our leader was right, as always, when she exposed the commissioner merit list and the role that this wicked Prime Minister played in that merit list. In the last year, we saw she was right again when she exposed the Eater Food lawyers. She told you about those Eater Food lawyers, and we saw it in Nelson Gate. In the last year, she was right once again when she exposed the underhanded behavior of members of this wicked government to disrupt the course of justice. My brothers and sisters, my leader is always right. My leader is always right. And I do not understand why the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, especially that Port of Spain sector, do not listen to our leader, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. I have a document here. In the budget of 2020, our Kamla Persad-Bissessar delivered her response on Friday, 11th of October, 2019. She themed her response, National Economic Transformation Master Plan, 2020 to 2025. So when they say we don't have plans, our leader have plans, UNC has plans. I just want to read a few items in that budget debate. Hear what our leader said in the first 90 days when we take office. I just want to confer with Dr. Munilal. We will re-establish the Ministry of the People. That is what our leader said. And that is what is required today when this country is seeing the worst kind of flooding for our citizens. She will also re-establish the Ministry of Justice. Those are two things in the first 90 days. That is leadership. She was our great Prime Minister, and she will be our next Prime Minister, my brothers and sisters. So, do not be weak. The time is near. When Dr. Mulya also talked about procurement legislation, our leader fought for that legislation in Parliament, and this wicked, wicked government watered down that version. They bought a watered down bill. And when the other day, I think was in a joint select, there were two individuals on that, on the government side. I think was Minister Dayal Singh and MP Scotland. And could you imagine, they were making excuses to bring that procurement legislation to fruition. What does that tell you, my brothers and sisters? That tells me, that tells us in the UNC that corruption is rampant under this PNM government. Rampant, rampant. So as I end, I really want to say, God bless to our people, our UNC colleagues who have been fighting the flood. I saw Dr. Munal here tonight with a lot of pictures, and I think he left out the one I saw of him cooking food here today, helping the people of Ochies. Now, I don't think his legs as good as mine, but it's somewhere looking good. It's looking good. So I saw him in short pants with a big belly, and he's turning the pot. So I want to say thank you, as Dr. Mulial said, to all the UNC counselors, all our soldiers who have been fighting and assisting the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Long live United National Congress. Long live the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And the sun will shine again in this country to give us hope and give us hope in this our country. I thank you.
It's about stopping.